Did everybody breathe a little bit while they were watching that? The idea was just to get you a little bit out of left brain because you've been working with a lot of numbers and data and analytical stuff, and just to kind of shift into right brain where we can kind of just connect. So as Jennifer said, my name is Leanne Venier. I used to be an engineer, a very left brain occupation. Now I'm a full-time artist, although I don't really know that classifies as a proper category anymore because I'm doing so much other stuff with teaching people about the science of color and light. I teach at major medical centers, conferences, like I spoke at South by Southwest Interactive. This year at South by Southwest Interactive, I was speaking specifically about flow state and the importance of integrating both the left and right side of the brain for all business applications, because I teach people how to get into flow state whenever they want and to be able to train their brains to be able to get into flow at will. And it's really important, especially now that you guys have been doing all this, you know, like taking notes and data and like getting your heads crammed full of facts. I just wanted to talk a little bit today about the importance of, when you are planning your finances and all of that sort of thing, the ability to tap into your intuitive side and to be able to get information from that right brain side, because it's very important to be able to not only access that, but also be able to trust when your intuition is talking to you and to be able to make decisions based on that, even though your left brain might be telling you something completely different. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about my background and my experiences with getting into flow state. It goes way back. I trained as a classical pianist when I was growing up with Royal Conservatory in Canada, and so I was regularly getting into flow state through my music. First of all, does everybody know what flow state is? Okay. Okay, so let's define the term. It's a term that was coined by a well-known psychologist, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He's got this really long name. But anyway, it's basically another name for the zone or the groove, musicians will often call it. Did people know those terms? Yeah. Getting into the zone? Okay. So, and to describe it, it's described as an optimal state of consciousness where you feel and you perform your best. So if you are doing something like, okay, first of all, just a show of hands, who does things like in a left brain field here, engineering, science, okay, and who does things that are kind of more creative field? Okay, we're kind of split. I don't know what to classify it in the middle there. Who does something else that wouldn't be either one? Okay, like what is that?
Sales.
Okay, well, okay, yeah, that's actually both. Okay, so in creative endeavors, when people are doing things like playing musical instruments or doing high performance sports, or writing, people who write will have this experience often, or people who even design code, people who do computer programming. You get into that state, your brain goes into this kind of groove where everything becomes hyper-focused. You have no sense of time. Everything becomes crystal clear. It's almost like, I describe it as when they put blinders on a horse, and because the horse stays focused and he can run a lot faster, it's just like that. It's like you have blinders on and you stay hyper-focused and you power through whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's writing or doing some kind of creative thing like drawing or painting or gardening or anything like that. So who here has had a kind of experience like that in their lives? Most people, probably about half. Well, okay, most people have experienced this at one time or another. A lot of people haven't experienced it in years, if not decades. I mean, most of us, if we think back to when we were children, you have those experiences where you just get completely immersed in an activity, you lose total track of time, and it can be hours later and all of a sudden you emerge from your reverie and you may have created something fascinating, or you may have done something, or anyway. So that's basically flow state. And again, it has a number of different names, like the zone, the groove. You can actually train your brain to be able to get into that state whenever you want, at will. It's actually not difficult to do. And that's one of the things that I teach people how to do. And the importance of being able to do that, though, like I said, is to be able to trust that right brain side. Because we have all of these things that in our daily lives, we have all this data that's constantly coming in. And we're constantly assessing the information as it comes in, making decisions based on that data. And sometimes we get so bombarded with data, especially now we've all got smartphones, and we just have very little time to unplug. I mean, you have to make a conscious effort to shut things down sometimes to be able to let your brain have that quiet time. And a lot of times we're not doing that. So it causes this feeling of underlying stress that's just, it becomes something that you get used to, but it's not a healthy thing to be living in that realm all the time. So with my own background, when I was, like I said, I started off as a classical pianist. I was always writing as a child and drawing, so I was always in the zone. And I would spend time out in nature. You can go into the zone and flow state just by going out into nature and having quiet time out in nature. And then I decided to study mechanical engineering because I loved math and science as well. And it just seemed like I wanted to do something that women don't typically do, or didn't back then, and it's still not as common. But anyway, so I decided to study mechanical engineering, and I got immersed in this entire left brain world. There wasn't any time for me to have any kind of creative outlet at all. You're studying all the time. You can't take any kind of creative classes because it's not approved for your curriculum. By the time I graduated and I started working for Lockheed, I was designing submarines for them, and I was feeling like there's this feeling of unsettledness that you can't really describe. You just feel like, eh. And I've talked to a lot of people who have been, involved in business, either high-level executives, people that have run their own businesses, whatever it is, and they after a number of years, they start to feel this kind of like, I just am craving something creative. I have to do something with my hands, or I want to do something that, I'm creating something. I'm not just analyzing and processing data all the time, because your brain actually needs to have that kind of creative outlet. And it's interesting. I came across this article just a couple months ago, and there was a guy in the 1990s, a research scientist, and he was curious to see what would happen if people were allowed to not have any exposure to electric light after dusk, just like our paleo ancestors. So he wanted to see what would happen to our sleep cycles if we cut out all artificial light after dusk, just like we used to have. So he did this study with a large group of people, and for the first 3 weeks, everybody was all electric light, artificial light was completely eliminated after dusk. So they just had normal darkness. They went to bed like around 10 o'clock. And for the first 3 weeks, nothing remarkable happened. Everybody slept maybe an extra hour, and he figured they were catching up on sleep. But what happened in the 4th week of the study is that everybody shifted their sleep cycles. So they started sleeping for 4 hours, and then they would wake up for 2 hours, and they'd be kind of in between this wakeful sleep state, kind of in between sleep and wakefulness, which is another term for flow. Because when there are varying degrees of flow, and when you get into a really deep meditative state, that's also a flow state. So what he found was that all of these people kind of had this 2-hour period where they would wake up essentially between 2 and 4 in the morning usually, and they would have these kind of transcendent experiences. And then they would sleep for another 4 hours. Now, we don't all have 10 hours at our disposal to sleep every night. And I'm not saying that this is like something that you need to do. I'm just talking about the fact that it's something that we used to naturally do. It was something that was kind of our birthright. Getting into flow state every night where you have all of these creative ideas. I know a number of people who are entrepreneurs, and they do this where they do wake up. They have a period of time where they wake up in the middle of the night, and they just have all these great ideas for the businesses that they're working with, and they get up and they take down a bunch of notes, and then they go back to sleep. And you can do this for yourself if you're curious to try. You can set an alarm so you wake up in the middle of the night. I've done this myself. It's part of like Eastern tradition. I think possibly part of Tibetan dream yoga, one of the practices there, where you wake up in the middle of the night, you do a meditation. It's not like you get up and you read a book, or you certainly don't get on your iPad. I'll talk about that in a minute. And you can do a deep meditation, and then you get all of these insights that come in, because you're basically tapping into flow state. The reason that you don't want to use your iPad, I talk a lot about this as well, is that we are specifically attuned to certain wavelengths of blue light, which correspond to a clear blue sky. We have these blue light photoreceptors in our eyes that tell us when it's the middle of the day. And when we go outside and we see a clear blue sky, our body knows, our eyes see this blue light, and they tell our body it's the middle of the day, shut off melatonin production. Melatonin is a very important hormone in our body that helps us to get sleepy at night, but it does a whole host of other things, including preventing cancer and healing all kinds of illness and preventing all kinds of illness. So it's really important to have blue light exposure during the day. What happens, though, when you use your iPads and tablets and computers at night, those screens emit a very high percentage of that very same blue light. So what you're doing anytime you put those in front of your face at night is you're telling your body it's the middle of the day, shut off melatonin production. And that's why so many people have insomnia nowadays, where they have a hard time sleeping at night. Does anybody here have a hard time sleeping at night? Raise of hands. Not too many. And do the rest of you who sleep at night, do you wake up fully rested in the morning? Show of hands. Most people wake up. Okay. So how many of you sleep okay at night, but you wake up and you feel really lethargic in the morning? Okay, so we've got kind of a good split. Anyway, when you have proper melatonin production, you tend to sleep very deeply at night, and you wake up fully rested in the morning. And one of the great ways to get your melatonin levels up is by going out and getting natural sunlight. I've done a series of articles for Texas MD magazine that talk all about this. You can look on my website if you're interested. But anyway, the important part is getting natural light during the day. So going back to flow state, when you are training your brain and doing activities that allow you to slow down. So if you have something that already allows you to get into flow state, like some kind of creative outlet, something that, like I gave you the list earlier, how many people do have something that's kind of a creative outlet? Whether it's an art endeavor, playing a musical instrument, something like that. If you have something like that and you practice it on a regular basis, you actually will train your brain to be able to get into flow state whenever you want. There was a study that was done recently by Harvard, and they found that people doing some kind of mindfulness exercise, they did MRI readings on their brain before, during, and after, and they found that the brain structure, the literal gray matter of their brains changed, in that the areas that are associated with learning, memory, and empathy all got bigger and denser. And the areas that are associated with stress and anxiety all got smaller. So when you have more brain matter or less brain matter, that means over here there's more area for the neural pathways to travel through, and there would be a lot more activity in those areas, the learning, memory, and empathy. And not only while the people were doing the mindfulness exercises, but outside of those exercises as well. So flow state, mindfulness, they're synonyms again. The areas of stress and anxiety, so those areas got smaller, so people were no longer responding to stress in the same way. They were not affected by it like they used to be. You don't get into that fight or flight state as easily. And they've known this, they've done studies on meditating monks for many years where they've analyzed their brains, they've done MRI readings, and they found that with monks who have basically meditated their entire lives, their brains they already have this structure, and they don't have the same kind of startle response that most people do. They just don't have those stress reactions. But they were curious to know what would happen with people that have never meditated ever before. So they took people who had never meditated, checked their brains before, during, and after, and found these dramatic changes in structure. And it was only 8 weeks that it took the brain to change so dramatically. So you can literally change your brain in as little as 8 weeks. I think you can actually do it faster. One of the things about doing meditation exercises for people who have never done it. Has anybody here meditated? Quite a few people. So you know about the benefits of meditation. It helps calm you down. It reduces stress levels. I mean, there's a whole, you can Google it, and there's tons and tons of benefits to meditating. The problem is a lot of people who are very type A, go, 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 do a lot of work, I have to be busy all the time, and you tell them to go sit on a cushion, that's really hard for them to just go and it's like, okay, go do nothing now. That's not really, it's not very conducive to people that like to stay busy all the time, right? So when you give them an activity that allows them to get into flow state, that's actually much easier for them. So one of the things that I teach in my flow training sessions is it's a basic exercise that even the most left-brain people can get into flow state, and it works the very first time, and it's had 100% success rate so far. Anyway, and now I'm focusing on teaching people in business how to get into flow state at will, train your brain, and be able to apply that in business. So here, rewind again to when I, left engineering. Oh, okay, so I worked as an engineer. I found it really stifling because I was stuck in left brain all the time. So I decided to leave that career. I moved to Italy for 7 years, and I had a fabulous time there. I started my own business, operating in flow state all the time, and I was doing all sorts of creative things, drawing and writing and studying. So I was studying all kinds of alternative healing modalities. I was in flow there constantly, amazing food, everything. Then I came back to the United States, and to continue my alternative healing studies, I decided to go back to school for acupuncture and Zen Shiatsu. So I went back into the full-on study mode. And again, it was like study, 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 brain. And then I moved up to British Columbia to finish my training up there because I wanted to do more of a 5 elements focus. And then I was studying and working. I had a healing practice working with cancer patients. And again, I started like left brain, left brain. I mean, there's intuitive stuff that's involved in healing work, but it wasn't like a creative outlet. I just didn't have time for it. I ended up moving back to Austin because it was too cloudy and rainy up there, and and you need sunshine. And I was like, I got to get out of here. It's raining all the time. So I came back here, and in order to kind of satisfy that right brain craving that I was feeling, I just needed to have some kind of creative outlet. That's when I took a painting class. I took a beginner painting class, and I wanted just to learn how to mix paint and to have the structure of going to class twice a week where I would create a habit for myself, because it's hard when you want to do something creative to make time in your busy life for it, because it always ends up getting pushed to the back burner. Like Christina was saying, it's like you have your investments and your taxes that you have to pay. You put those first. Those are one of the things that you have to put at the top if you want to be thinking about your financial well-being. If you want to be thinking about your emotional, psychological, and physical well-being, you also have to think about making time for right brain activities. So whatever it is that allows you to tap into that flow state, that really is a very necessary thing. So this whole thing about them getting rid of art classes and music in schools is just it's going to really be a bad decision. So if any of you have children, I highly recommend that you put them into some kind of creative program where if they're not getting it in school, get it for them outside of school, because you really do need to develop those sides of your brain. There's all sorts of research about the benefits of flow state. It improves your health. A lot of people who have taken my workshops in the past have taken them specifically for health issues, because when you get into flow state, you're able to tap into this, what's called the collective unconscious, as Carl Jung referred to it. Does everybody know who Carl Jung, Jungian psychology? Okay, he's a famous psychologist he's passed away now, but, and Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the man who coined the term flow, he started his studies of flow based on, after he went and heard Carl Jung speak many years ago. So anyway, the importance of being able to train your brain, get into these flow states and apply that in your life is very important. And when you get into flow, you do get all of these intuitive insights. You get all of this information that seems to come from nowhere. Like it's almost as though you're channeling something. For me, when I'm painting, I don't feel like I'm creating the paintings. I feel like they're coming through me. Like my very, very first painting, it wasn't in that slideshow there. It's now hanging in Hong Kong in offices of a global energy investment company. I took this beginner painting class, found that I wasn't able to get into flow state in class, so I started painting at home. And in my very first abstract painting, I just realized that if I tune in with the colors and I focus on the color energies that I need, that put me into flow state, like immediately. And I created this really cool painting, and it was just like, I don't know where that came from. It just came from somewhere beyond me. It didn't feel like I was obviously there controlling the brush, but it didn't feel like I was left brain thinking, what do I want to show up on the canvas? I had no plan. So all that to say that in business applications, when you have certain things, you have an idea of what it is that you want to manifest in the world, and you have these left brain, you've got all your lists and you know what you have to do, and you've got certain things that your left brain is telling you, well, it would be a good idea to do this, or I read a book about this, or whatever, these people told me to do this. But at the same time, if you're able to tap into flow state and that intuitive side, and your gut is telling you something completely different, where it's like, I know logically it sounds like this is a really good idea, but my gut is telling me to not do that. But sometimes we don't listen to that. So we end up doing the thing that our left brain tells us to do, and it ends up being a bad decision. And then we look back and we're like, oh my God, I should have listened to my gut instinct, and I wouldn't be where I am now. So the ability that you get when you're able to tap into flow state is you get all these intuitive pieces of information that come, and then you not only get them, they come very strongly. I mean, there's no question anymore about what you need to do. It's so clear to you that it's like, oh, no, my intuition is telling me do this, so I'm going to listen to that. It's almost like you might try to override it and go the left brain route, but you'll have all these obstacles that will come in your way trying to go that way. And it's like, well, no, I have to do this because I know this makes the most sense. And you'll find that this door closes and this door closes, or all these obstacles come, or something, you miss an appointment, or whatever it is that happens. And then you finally listen to what your intuition says, and then everything goes click, click, click. Everything just happens effortlessly. So it's exactly like when you're in that zone in flow state, everything happens effortlessly, and it doesn't feel like you're trying to control the process at all. Everything just kind of comes through you. And it's the same thing. I mean, has anybody heard the term synchronicity? Synchronicity? Okay, so that was like, Christina just contacted me a few days ago to, like, she had an idea. It's like, wow, I'm going to be talking about flow. Wouldn't it be really cool to get somebody in here who has experience with flow and to talk about flow, And she Googled, and it was like, oh my God, she found my website, and then she's like, oh my God, she's in Austin. Isn't this awesome? So, and she's like, it was a total synchronicity. And I said, I love synchronicities. And it's when you are tapping into flow state, when you're able to slow down enough to let your right brain kind of take over, quiet the left brain enough so your logical, linear, analytical side isn't screaming in your ear constantly, and you're able to listen to that, that's when all these synchronicities start to happen as well. So you have, and synchronicity just is a term that was also coined by Carl Jung. It means meaningful coincidence. So things that seem like they're a coincidence, and really it's beyond statistical probability that something like this could happen, where it doesn't really logically make sense. It's like, oh, I just was thinking it would be perfect if I had X, Y, or Z happen, and then somebody calls you on the phone and says, I want you to meet my friend who does X, Y, or Z. And you're like, wow, that is so cool. I was just thinking about that. So there isn't really any such thing as coincidence. When I first started painting again, my very first painting that I was talking about before, I actually called it Synchronicity. It had 2 panels, Synchronicity A and B, and it was kind of, for me, a visual representation of these things aligning and kind of finding this creative seed within myself. And I got so much attention from that painting and the other paintings that I did at home. At the end of that class, we ended up doing a one-night exhibition. All the faculty, it was an ACC class, all the faculty came. I got so much attention for the abstract paintings, which I was showing during that exhibit. And that's when I decided, okay, my intuition said, take a leap, become a full-time artist. So I decided to leave the healing work. I didn't want to leave it behind completely. I just wanted to not be doing the one-on-one healing work. So I left the one-on-one healing work. I'm still doing that kind of work on a broader scale and teaching people about how to heal themselves. So I ended up getting a studio and a few months later and put up a website. And all I had was about 10 images to put on the website. And it was just, but I was in that flow. And I put up a website. And within 2 months, I got contacted by an international curator who found my website in the sea of millions of people's websites. And she contacted me to participate in this international exhibition that was happening in Italy, where I had been living before, in Ferrara. And again, my logical left brain side was like, oh, that's going to be expensive to go to Italy and get your artwork over there. And it was like all of this stuff. But my intuition was saying, no, you have to do this. So I went. It was like amazing, and I won awards and stuff like that. But all of that to say, because I was getting into flow state, there's something that you put out. There's like this energetic signature. And if you want to talk about quantum mechanics, you can. They've done a lot of studies actually on how we do relay information. You know, thoughts are energy. And Dean Radin is a researcher. He's done a lot of research on intention and ability to communicate and send information. Anyway, that all ties in with the big picture of being able to tap into this source of information. And when you are able to tap into that source, you're also able to put information out there as well. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like this two-way thing. And so you're thinking, okay, I need to grow my business, or I need to do this thing, or I feel like this is where I need to go with my business, or with whatever investments that I'm doing. I feel like this is where I need to go, but I don't know anybody who can help me with that, or I don't know anybody that knows anything about that, or I don't know, whatever it is. I mean, like, you feel like this is where I need to do this, or I feel like I kind of have this glimmer of an idea of I need to head in this direction. And you just start thinking about that, and you don't even have to, I mean, when you're getting into flow, you don't have to do anything like sit down and, okay, I'm gonna think, okay, I need to channel. You don't know. It's like, all you have to do is have these thoughts come into your mind. Then you start transmitting it. The people that are out there to help you start showing up. I mean, just like me putting up that website, I couldn't have thought to contact a woman in Italy to invite me to participate in it. It's like these things that are impossible. A few months after that, I got contacted by an international pan-Arab magazine. They publish 55,000 copies all around the world. They're based in Lebanon and Paris. The editor contacted me. She wanted me to be the featured artist. I'm like, okay, are you going to charge me money to do this? Why are you why are you contacting me? I've been painting for like less than a year. I mean, I didn't tell her that, but I mean, it's like my website was brand new. Like, how did you find me? She's like, no, this doesn't cost anything. We publish 4 times a year. We really like your work. We want you to be the featured artist. And I'm like, how? Like, just things like this that just happen when you're getting into flow state, that there's no possible way to explain it. I've had hundreds, thousands of these. It's just so normal for me now, and they happen on a daily basis. So there are all kinds of benefits like this to getting into flow state, helping you make decisions, knowing when to make the right decisions, having people show up at the right time. And again, I could give you a huge long list of my own experiences. But when you're able to tap into that and live in that state, it doesn't mean you leave the left brain stuff behind. In fact, it's quite the opposite, because for me, for example, when I was painting on a regular basis, and then I started being asked to talk about, I won't go into the whole history. If you want to know more about my background, you can look on my website. But when I was asked to give my first lecture at UT Health Sciences Center in San Antonio to teach medical doctors about the science behind the healing effects of color and light, I forget where I was going with that. Okay, hold on one sec. Oh, thank you. Yes. Yeah. So I got too much into right brain there. Okay. So I've been painting and doing all the creative stuff for 3 years at this point now. And then I have to go in and I'm reading just literally thousands of medical research studies. It's all very left brain, dry, analytical type stuff. I mean, but I'm fascinated by the topic. So what I was finding and I'm creating PowerPoint presentations and things like that to give my lectures. And what I was finding is that while I'm doing all of this left brain stuff, which would normally be very left brain analytical, and you'd be able maybe to do it for an hour at a time where you need, I gotta go have a cup of coffee. I could work for hours and hours and hours. I'd be until 10 o'clock at night, and I'm like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock. Because I was in flow state, but I was doing very left brain stuff. So you learn how to kind of balance the two, where you don't let the left brain be super dominant, but you let the right brain come in and kind of override that a little bit. I don't even know how to give you a visual representation of it, but it's not like you're leaving the left brain behind, because you're still doing very left brain. If you're doing financial planning, all of that's classic. What's that?
Shepherding the brain.
Shepherding. Well, yeah, maybe. Well, I don't even know, because that has a little bit of a connotation of feeling like it's controlling. It's more like being open. So you're still like that horse with the blinders, and you're hyper focused, but you're allowing all of this creative energy to come through at the same time. So you're doing logical left brain analytical type tasks, but you're allowing this creative energy to come through, and that's where you get all these insights. So you might be working on some kind of financial model, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I just got a great idea. And it might take you down this path, and you're like, I don't even know where that came from, but it makes perfect sense. Like, how did I not think of it before? Does all of that resonate with people? You know, so again, most of us have had these experiences, and they just kind of come whenever they feel like it. But you can actually learn how to control that and have it in your life on a regular basis. And it's just simply a matter of training your brain to be able to do that. Anyway, how are we doing for time? I just wanted to, if anybody, I've said kind of what I feel is the important message, but I'd like to answer questions if anybody has any.
So can you talk more about your teaching and how you teach us to do that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, actually, I'm in the process right now of building 2 brand new websites, which is one of the big projects I'm working on, because I'm working on getting it more automated, so the administrative stuff is a lot more streamlined and easy to do, so I can do the flow training more often, because it's basically when enough people pester me to do it, and I have people contacting me from different countries and Australia and England, and they want me to do an online version. Anyway, that's all a work in progress. But what I've been doing is I schedule the training sessions and have people come in, and they started off as short 3-hour workshops, which is enough time to learn the technique, and it's not just me standing up talking. In fact, there's very little of me standing up talking until we do the actual exercise, and then we get into the left brain. So we do the right brain part, and then we do the left brain understanding and an analysis. So basically, I'm teaching people a technique where you are tapping into that right brain flow state, and so I always have people start off by asking a question, whatever it is that they're dealing with, some challenge, and if if they have some kind of health condition that they're working with, something in their personal life, something in their relationship, something with their business, something that they've been struggling with. And usually it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly what I want to get clarity on. So we start off with that, write that down, and then do the exercise. And everybody gets their answer. I mean, it's like you all of a sudden tap into this source of information where it's like you know what the answer is. You don't not know, it's just that it gets obscured by the left brain analytical side. So when we're not able to tap into that right brain flow state and access this information source, the left brain kind of clouds everything. It obscures everything. So it kind of clears the veil and allows you to tap into this information. Does that make sense? I don't know if that, anyway, so it's simple. It's basically teaching you how to do it, and then it's a matter of practicing. I've had, every time I've taught the training sessions, people want more and more time. They want because in so many people, I mean, you can go on my website and read a bunch of testimonials. And the website that actually, where all the color and light stuff is called catalyticcolor.com. That didn't end up on the screen, but that's my new website where all the stuff about color, light, and flow is. But anyway, people during the workshop and afterwards, the way that they describe it is it's almost like this part of their brain gets turned back on, and it's like opening this channel, and they feel super energized. You feel really amazing. I mean, when you're operating in flow state, you have this limitless source of energy, which is why you can work for 12 hours, and then it's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I mean, I just was doing that yesterday. I had a deadline, and it was 9 o'clock at night. And I'm like, oh my God, it's 9 o'clock at night. And then I have a hard stop time of 10 o'clock. I actually forced myself to shut off electronics, ideally earlier than that. But for me, it's very easy for me to work till late in the evening, and then I have to okay, get off the computer, because I don't want to go beyond that point. I'm super energized up to a certain point, and then I'm like, okay, now I need to get off the computer, have my quiet downtime, and let my batteries recharge. So it's important to be able to do that as well. And anyway, so it's really not as complicated as people think that it might be. It's actually a very simple thing. And I think, again, it's because it is our birthright. We are naturally designed to have this time where our brains want to go into this creative zone, and to be able to integrate that into our daily lives is really important. And it helps all sorts of things. I mean, stress reduction. In business applications, McKinsey did a 10-year study on top executives who are operating in flow state. You can actually, again, this is on my website. They found that executives and business people in general who are operating in flow state are 500% more effective. 500%. So that means you can go in and work on Monday and get a full week's work done. So work one day, take the rest of the week off, literally. And like people like Christina, myself, other people who are entrepreneurs, people look at all the things that we've done and they're like, how do you find the time to do all of that? I mean, and not be exhausted and dead. When you're channeling this energy, you're not using your own energy sources. You're kind of taking it in, and it's coming in and coming out through your work, and the amount of sheer product of things that you're putting out into the world seems astronomical to people who are working the regular old 9-to-5 corporate job and feeling like, oh my God, what time is it? It's only 3 o'clock. I have 2 more hours. I have to be here. That's not operating in flow state. And you can get into flow state even in your job. I mean, if you're not very fulfilled in your job, it's going to be a lot harder, because there are some requirements for being able to operate in flow. And one of the things, you have to feel challenged. You can't feel overly challenged, but you can't feel like it's too easy and boring, because if it's too boring for you, you won't get into flow. And if it's too challenging, it's beyond your abilities, or you're being pulled into meetings every half hour. That's another thing that will block flow. So there are a number of things that will prevent you from getting into flow state. If you understand what those are and you can eliminate those, then it's a lot easier to get the blinder.
So how do you recommend couples get into that optimal, if the flow state is your optimal zone of performance or optimal zone, then as a couple, you'd really be in alignment with each other?
Well, okay, that's a very good question. Are you talking in alignment in general or in alignment for finances or whatever?
I'm talking about in your relationship.
Well, there are things that when people are operating in flow state as individuals, your ability to communicate and connect with people, you tap into that intuitive side a lot more. So remember what I was saying about the empathy part of the brain? That actually gets bigger. So you're able to empathize. Empathy means that you're able to feel and understand at a really deep level what another person is feeling. And when you're in a relationship with somebody, if you're all focused on me, like my issues, and you're projecting your stuff onto your partner, and it's like, that isn't what I said at all. I didn't mean that. You, like, whatever you interpreted. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like there can be a lot of misunderstanding when we're not able to empathize with the other person. So when you're able to tune in with that other person and understand where they're coming from, then you're working in alignment with each other. Does that make sense?
Sure. So, but getting in that flow state is a learned skill set.
Oh, well, yes. I mean,
So,
most people, like I said, most people have experienced it. If you have something that allows you to get into that flow state, it's a matter of just practicing it.
but you can learn to improve your ability to get into the flow state whenever you desire to get into it.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you recommend as a couple that that's a skill set you work on together to both be able to stay in that state of flow? And if you're both in that state of flow, this would naturally, as an overflow, your relationship would improve.
It does. I mean, even if only one person, I've had people that are like single people from a couple relationship who have come and taken my workshops, for example. They got insights about their relationship, things that they'd been trying to understand and weren't really able. They like immediately got clarity, and they told me it's like it shifted the whole direction of their relationship, improved their quality of their relationships, not just with their partner but with friends. Because when you're able to tune in with what's going on with yourself, if you understand what's going on in your underlying psyche, because there are a lot of times we're doing things, and if we're not mindful, we might be reacting to things and not really looking at where's this reaction coming from. If you're operating in a place where you're connected and you have that deeper understanding, that connection with your core self, because that's essentially what we're learning how to do, is to tap into our core self. When you're able to do that, your likelihood of projecting your issues onto other people go away. I mean, and the more you do it, the more they disappear completely. Where it's like, oh, okay, I'm having this reaction. Where's this coming from? And you're able to tap in and go, oh, I know this is reminding me of when I was 6 years old and I had that experience, and it's bringing up all that anxiety about that, and now I'm projecting it onto my partner. Does that make sense? So even one person doing this for themselves will help a relationship. If both people are doing it, yes, exponentially better. And again, all aspects, not just with your partner, but all of your friends, your relationships in business, everything like that. It sounds like it's magic. It kind of is, but really it's not. You're getting down to a core level. You're understanding yourself a lot better, and you're able to tap into that limitless source of energy. Well, yes, that's where the intentional part, the part that you control, is making time in your schedule to practice this and to give yourself that gift and to be able to train your brain to be able to do that. And I'm talking about brain because for people that are very left brain, like if you tell them what's actually happening in their brain instead of like, okay, spiritual, blah, 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 you're going to lose them. Okay, but no, this has actually been measured, MRI readings. You can see the difference in the brain structure and the areas of the brains that they know are related to memory, learning, and empathy are getting bigger. So Anyway, does that answer your question? How are we doing? Is that it? Wrap it up? Okay. Well, thank you, everybody.
Where does everybody find you?
Okay, yeah, I have two websites. The leannevenier.com is one of them up there. The other one where all the color, light, and flow stuff, and the leannevenier.com is one of them. I'm in the process. Next week it'll be down for a couple days. I'm migrating it to my own hosting site. I outgrew the site that I was on. And catalyticcolor.com, catalyticcolor.com. Okay. And I'm on Facebook and all sorts of social media. If you Google me, you'll get 20 pages of results.